Hello, welcome to the what I call Radio on the Road. And today I've ended up at Paramount Hotel right here. It is the Rwanda Kenya Trade Fair, a very lovely one, I must say, has brought together different stakeholders, thought leaders across the entire value chain, not just from Rwanda, but across the board, literally. The theme is unlocking trade opportunities and building sustainable partnerships to elevate Africa's economics. I have a very amazing resource. He is one or has been one of the keynote speakers in the trade fair. One thing I love about him is the fact that he's not just an entrepreneur, meaning he's very well versed with the money, economic state, not just in Rwanda, literally across Africa. Shortly before we came on air, I was asking him about which parts of Africa it's not yet gone to. But anyway, he's an academia as well, and he trains others in this line of business. I would like to allow him introduce himself because he has very many accolades, and Doctor, I'd like for you to introduce yourself.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Dr. Privilege. I'm the Managing Director and founder of African Training Institute of Victoria, South Africa. We also do an office here in Kigali, and I can greatly say that one dish.
To prove that, you need to greet us at least in the local language. Are you able to yet?
Yeah, in the morning.
Okay.
What I'm not saying.
Oh, see, we have proved. It's true.
Yeah, so it's like a second home in Rwanda. So other than African Training Institute, okay, maybe let me start there. We are into capacity building. We're an organization with a footprint in about 42 countries where we do our capacity building training and development, among other capacity building areas. And as an individual, I also into other various areas of entrepreneurship. Agriculture, which is quite diversified from capacity building. I'm also in hospitality, and also in some minimal real estate as well. So in terms of academia, well, I'm a PhD holder, mainly in business administration, that's business administration. And I've been exposed to the nature of my work. I think I've been to over 40 countries, which comes with a lot of exposure in terms of business, meeting different people, interacting with different people from different offices, be it from the private sector, interacted with very dignitaries from the private sector, from the public sector as well. Obviously, so that it helps in actually getting a lot of exposure as far as business is concerned.
That's very true. And you know, what I want to do is begin from a very light note. Clearly, you have a good relationship with money. I say that because anybody who invests in academics, firstly, that's a giveaway. And then all those spaces of hospitality, agriculture, and all that you have invested in. So you have a good relationship with money, I would say. When did this start? Did you love money when you were growing up?
I like you put it, having a good relationship with money.
It's a good one.
Okay,
from what I'm hearing.
He also told you like you love money from a child. By the way, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil.
And yet it gives us the what does the Bible say again? Everything is solved by money, something like this.
Yeah, it is. All right, yeah, well, sure and fine. As far as entrepreneurship is concerned, I did not start any entrepreneurship at a tender age. It started during my university days, and I'll do some basic selling. One of them, which I always give credit to my challenges that I went through, I was selling peanut butter. In the neighborhood, in the what we call in the ghetto. And I'm not sure what you call gateway, the high density locations. Right? So from facility, normally during holidays, I'll go to the market, buy some groundnuts, go to those people who had machinery for making peanut butter. Then I go to the streets and sell. So from the streets there, I managed now to start interacting with people with tuck shops, mini shops. They're like, oh, we like your peanut butter. So eventually it became like, oh, okay, so I need more nuts now, more growing bit by bit. So the challenges that I experienced that time actually highly contributed to all the exposure that's
Might I ask how old you were by then?
please come on.
May I ask how old you were by then?
I was 21.
Wow. And you didn't have any prior exposure to business before that?
No, and that was just like the starting point.
I mean, it's encouraging. It means that whichever level you are at, with the little that is around you, you can be able to start, figure out a way of growing and making a lot of money. It's important, especially for the youth. It's good that you mentioned that. Now, we're talking about integration, we're talking about not working in silos, we're talking about synergy, not just within your country, but across the board, because we see the opportunity that is there in East Africa, right? But the question I would like for us to now get straight into is, how do we politely, delicately tread in as far as these synergies and coming together, but also respectfully honoring our uniqueness, so to speak. I bring that out because just recently, as you know, we were having this conversation before we came on air. What was happening between Kenya and Tanzania? So Tanzania is considering putting up a certain space for tourism and all, and the Kenyans are getting involved because they feel like a certain tribe is being, taken advantage of because they're herders and herdsmen. And at the end of the day, the presidents had to get involved. You see, the Tanzanian president saying, "Be careful," the Kenyan president saying, "We are sorry," and the Gen Zs using social media, which is the most important part that I'm talking about. You can have that deal with Kenya, and it probably doesn't go well. I will go to social media and I will make Kenya look bad simply because of my personal experience. So let's speak to that. We are coming together across the entire board. The hustlers, the big investors, the mid entrepreneurs, literally everyone. Yes, let's just get into that.
Okay, yeah, it's quite a challenge. To start with, the young people, they are the people who have the potential to drive the economy. However, the challenge is they are not having the platforms. Right? Look at the example that we gave of Kenya. Earlier on in the presentation, Kenya about over 60% unemployment rate. Right? And to that, they just feel the government is letting us down. Now, after that, the government wants to go into a deal which they feel our resources are being sold, right? And what I'm getting out of it, we're not getting anything. Right? So the main challenge, I also touched on that, is credibility, trust, integrity of the government. Right? What is it that the government has tangible that we can say they've done to the youth? Right? Is there an element of trust between the youths and the government? I don't want to say the people, but specifically looking at the youth,
Yes.
I think wow, kind of causing the turmoil. I would say, on the other hand, they are short-sighted. These type of investments actually yield high good returns.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I wouldn't want to blame them, right? They are injured already. They've seen it, right? That at some point this kind of a deal, I think you might remember the airport issue.
Yes.
They feel our resources are being sold and we're getting nothing, right? So as much as we may think or see that we should succeed, but on the other hand, there is lack of trust. Such kind of collaboration is very important within the region, East African community, and even beyond. But are they beneficial to parents? Are they beneficial to the youth? Right? In Africa, the youth comprise about 70%. Most of them are 25.
Yeah.
They are ready for the job market. Where are the jobs? They are available to protest, to go on any public outcry that they just feel. Sometimes they do because they have a noble cause, right? If I tell you, I was talking to some person just right here, right? Saying me, I would go just because there's nothing to do. So I go to the street to get the protest. So they are not having any involvement in the economic growth. They are not involved. So that's what there is leadership.
I like that you began with your own personal story as far as opportunities is concerned or are concerned. Because in this case, the excuse is, like we're saying, the government is not doing much to avail opportunities for us, but the ones that you have, like the personal initiative to not be that idle, that I will join protests because I am idle. There are opportunities near us, but there is again the issue of perception or how we are perceived. It's a real issue in our day and age. The older people might not understand because there will be no way you can come and justify the fact that how will they see me is prohibiting you from doing something as important as getting a job and making money. But it's a real issue, and if we're going to solve these kinds of issues, we need to get to real, probably see things through their eyes, so to speak. What do you speak to the youths in this regard?
I think the most important thing is the mindset, what their perspective towards themselves. Well, we may not necessarily look at the government to say the government must, right? The government must do this, the government must do this. What are the people doing for their country, right? It's also something of importance, right? If I may, maybe on my personal life, I'm a very resilient person. I have a rural background, what is known as strong rural background. Right? It's a derogatory, at least called SRP.
Oh.
But I have a strong rural background, right? So normally they say I mean that's SRP, right?
That's nice.
I'm very proud of that background. It shaped me, it gives me strong resilient skills. I can go anywhere, do anything. And I believe I can succeed in anything because that background taught me to be very resilient and very determined. I have my mantra, which is called aggressive determination.
Correct.
So what I set my eyes on, it has to work out. Now take a young person today, raised in the capital, Kigali, Nairobi, Johannesburg, bread and butter, Netflix, Prime Video, everything is there. Then you expose that person. We would not say to harsh conditions, to mediocre conditions, right? That person will not be able to cope because life has been very simple. So the moment that person does not get a job, because the hope was the moment I graduate, I'm going to
get a job.
Now come a harsh condition. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, no job is available. But someone must be answerable. Who is it? The government. Right? Is there not any other thing that can be done to better your life, right? Something the panacea is okay, now I must go west, Europe, whatever, right? There's a lot to do. Back home in my office, I always encourage people in my team, like, what is the side hustle that you are doing, right? If someone doing else, this and that, right? Do something right? Money is never enough, right?
That is true.
Yeah, so what is he say? That's what we do. So it's easy to start just something. Let me touch on one Nigerian businessman, right? Dr. Maduka. He said he lost his father when he was 6 years old. Father is gone, left like that. From there, he said an uncle, if I recall well, came by and gave him some money. Can't remember the amount, but he says it was enough to buy the shipyard. You know, the shipyard, which is consumed in the high density silver.
Yes.
So it was like a hot cake. So it's the first thing, obviously, that would come into mind is like, oh, I always see other kids in the shipyard, right? Let me go. But he said, no, I thought of let me get some tomatoes whatsoever and put in the skills. Off you went, right? So what is the young person have to go with? So yeah, that's a question I would pose out there.
For them to think about food for thought. That's very amazing. Now, trade shows like Rwanda Kenya Trade Week are clearly positive signs of regional cooperation. But in light of recent tensions, do you think there is a need for more structured economic diplomacy, not just between the governments, but between the private sectors? And one of the things that has come up generally through the day, the partnerships still between the government and the private sector to mitigate some of these issues and getting them off of the boardroom, but literally coming down to the SMEs, because they speak a lot to the economy. One of the things that you pointed right now as you were talking is the fact that the youth will feel like, okay, we need the investments, we're creating jobs, but that's the thing. You are giving what could have been ours to somebody who has money. They have money because they already made some. By the time I'm making money, they will have bought all the land, I can't buy it. They will have, so literally what do you think should be done as far as policy is concerned? Maybe even touch a bit about the academia, by the way, the academic side.
Okay, yeah, I will start by looking at the issue mentioned of political instability within the regions. Yes, there is instability, but there is a progression plan, which means there is a continuous need, a continuous demand for usual day-to-day products that are required. Well, there are needs, right? Top of the basic needs, food, water, shelter. But still in the middle of the war, yourself, you still want to look beautiful if you're outside, right?
Indeed.
So that means all the beauty-related products, everything. I'm basically saying, in terms of trade, there is a need for all the normal goods and services. It's only the environment that is a bit prohibitive because of the instability, right? So coming to the private sector now, the private sector is the player. We are the key players as far as economic development is concerned. The government is a regulatory body, right? They come in to regulate how we are playing, leveling the playing field. So we remain with the duty as the private sector. We still have to do what needs to be done to contribute to our economic well-being. Collaboration, the synergies are very important, right? Like on a trade fair like this one, it's quite beneficial. There's platforms for networking. I've met some people here. I've been in some meetings on Friday, right, to see how we can come up with some synergies, collaborate and do better, right? Where is the government then? On our own is the private sector. Now when we come together, now we knock at the door of the government. Here we try to see what we want to do. The government is ready for us. The policies are in place. Right? We are letting them drive. So this platform is one of the key trade week. Given such platforms to collaborate, come together with the private sector, see how we can improve our economies, right, to regionally, yes, in East Africa. It's quite a privilege to have such.
That's very true. So the very last question I want to ask is perception. We've talked about that and at individual level, but with the serious impact and influence of social media, which can't be controlled that much. The question here is, what happens when we find that narratives are being shaped online? Like when the activists are deported and then communities are pushing back, sometimes exaggerating, or basically narratives are just coming up, even false information, actually, false news and all that. And then it affects investor confidence or the willingness of businesses to expand into the market, East Africa and Africa at large. How do we kind of mitigate this? How do I put it? I wanted to say counter it, because you see, again, we love soft life. So mainstream media, we are going to feel like, you guys don't understand us. So what should governments do in such a case?
Okay, to start with, social media is good. Social media is powerful. However, social media has its problems and challenges. It has its good. So how it is employed becomes the issue. I think you have seen and read of some African countries when they grow citizens, they shut down the internet so that there's no social anything going out there. So whatever happens is contained within the country. Right? Traditional media, well, some credit to it, they are certain way of dealing with issues, addressing issues, right? But with social media, specifically, they are not like defined lines of approach, right? I can see something happening there, I can just I can shoot, live stream, broadcast it, throw there and there, right? Then it goes out there. Now, how is it going to paint Rwanda as a country, right? It's somebody who is in the street who has just seen, okay, there's something happening here, let me live stream. There it goes, it's in Kenya, it's in South Africa, it's in Canada, UK, Australia is gone, and that becomes the picture about one. So in terms of control, right? By the way, I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok.
Oh my.
I'm not on Instagram.
Whoa.
And I don't want to be there. Right? I know you're a media personnel, there is no way you cannot be there.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'm on other social media platforms.
X.
I'm on X, Facebook, all those which are
Old school.
Right? I'm in my mid-40s, right? Some of my staff have motivated me, please, you have to help me, and I say, no, I'm old. It's time. Right? So it's a challenge that we're facing now with the Gen Z, that a wrong perspective, a wrong narrative is pushed out there by social media. There is a lot to push out there about Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, right? But what trends most are not good things.
That's true.
Right. It's the bad things that trends then eventually, you see, I'll give you an example of South Africa, right? Most people think the moment you walk in the streets of South Africa, you are shot.
And I'm one of the most people.
You see?
Yes.
Yes, there's crime, but it's not as bad as social media portrays it, right? We can live comfortable lives, go to shopping, no issue, nothing, but there are some people who even feel, hey, you can't go to South Africa because you're short, you might die, So look at it economic wise, it's inhibiting tourism, right? A lot of tourists now feel that, hey, these things, but it's just a wrong narrative pushed by social media. Yeah, so in terms of control, it's very difficult to control, right?
That is
especially looking at what I'm saying, but I can start live streaming now. Boom. 1 million views, 3, 4,
Exactly.
5, going on like that. Then the wrong narrative is driven out there. Yeah, so that's the challenge we're facing from the very extrovert Gen Z, right? It's like almost everyone in Gen Z is an extrovert, right? Very zealous. Yeah.
We even have content for introverts, but online. Like I'm an introvert, but I am online. I don't even know how that works. But what are your closing remarks, Dr. Privilege?
All right. In closing, I would just want to shift a bit to the side of business, mostly with an encouragement to the young people. Right? On overall, in Africa, we're facing the same challenges. Young people are facing the same challenges. And in the generation and middle age, yes, there are differences from when we left school to where we are. But I would like to say, let's look at what we can do that let's explore opportunities. Let's knock at the company's doors and see if there are opportunities and how can we capitalize on those opportunities. I'll give you an example for a country like Nigeria. Nigeria was at some point recognized as a poor country. They're enjoying, I think, the number 3 or so of the statistical economies. The young people are playing a very big role in the informal sector. Informal sector, right?
That's
so they're
key.
pushing the economy. So the same our young people can do. So our entrepreneurship started right there in the grassroots. Let's start it there. These young people will grow. Eventually, will contribute to the economy. All goes well. We stay home, we improve our countries.
As a young person, I'm going to be kind of like a devil's advocate. We have no time to grow slowly. You people had time. But right now, as we are speaking, my age mate is already, we were talking about that rainbow gentleman. Imagine the money he's enjoying is really young. So if you're telling me to start like my daddy did, start slowly, start small. Oh, is it feasible for my age?
Okay, you don't have time. Where are you rushing?
That's a good
Where are you
one.
going? When you say you don't have time.
That's a good
So
one.
the reason why you're saying you don't have time, no, it's not like you don't have time. You don't have patience. Our generations were patient enough. The generation of today is into the get rich quick scheme. And mostly it's attributed to media. Right? Your colleague posts this, another colleague posts this, it becomes so where am I? What am I doing? I'm so behind. Look at the car I'm driving, look at the car the citizen's driving. So I want to try to be quick to get this very same kind of car, right? Whenever the income increases a bit, I want to upgrade my lifestyle, all those. Our generation, all the way from our fathers, right? There was no that kind of competition, and there were no drivers for that competition. We have a massive driver for that,
Yeah.
which is social media. So you're saying you don't have time for that? No. This very same time we had, you have, but you don't have the patience.
Wow, that has been such an amazing conversation with Dr. Privilege. In fact, I'm privileged to have had this opportunity to sit down with you. Unlocking trade opportunities and building sustainable partnerships to elevate Africa's economies. You have a part to play at whichever level you're at. We have investors, they have their money, but not to feel bad because they create opportunities to make jobs where you and I can now make money with a mindset to actually also turn into investors. And we were talking about synergy, where you as a man together, 20 young people, you might have that capital to actually invest in that real estate that is starting. You don't have to outsource the funds or the capital in looking at US, looking at all those external investors. Africa, we are enough. East Africa, we are enough. These opportunities come. You meet people. Utilize that capital, the human capital, and let's make Africa great all by ourselves. It is possible. Joy Lava Hewa, Business News, and Royal FM.